Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Apex. Today we're talking about the Hungarian Grand Prix, which was absolutely full of controversy, I think.
Oh, insane. I mean, we just watched the highlights and especially the controversy between the two McLarens.
Oh my god, McLaren have been the story, the headline of this race, and the way that somehow we've managed to make a 1-2 negative is insane.
It's insane. I don't know how you've gone from kind of, being P5s, P6s to then working up at the front of the pack.
And yet still screwing up.
There's so many issues, but we'll get on to that when we talk about McLaren.
But yeah, let's first go into Red Bull. I mean, it was a poor weekend. Max didn't have the fastest car and was petulant because of it.
And I was literally going to say, I think you could see that from his radio messages that he was not happy.
In the slightest. I mean, the team was just screwing up in the strategy, in everything. And as you said, it just clearly impacted him.
It did, and that led him to make moves that were potentially just not okay to make. I mean, look at that one from Hamilton.
Absolutely. It was clearly his fault. He went for the move, he dived down the inside, brought way too much speed and got a penalty because of it. And look, it was just too petulant. We're starting to see the old Max come back. The old Max sort of make petulant moves because he's clearly feeling a threat from these McLarens.
Yes, exactly. He's had so much time being P1 and not having anyone to battle somewhat. So he didn't have to make moves for like 2 years. But now he's having to make those moves because he's not got the fastest car.
So it's going to be interesting to see how the team try and kind of manage Max because they're going to have to do it like they did in 2018 again. But we'll quickly just talk about Checo. Obviously he had a very poor qualifying, not even getting out of Q1. And just had no pace. Managed to get into the points, but it was not a good race.
No, again, it's still not looking good for him, is it?
It really isn't, and that's the rumour mill is flying, and it's very clear why.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move on to Mercedes.
I think it was a very solid result.
I think so.
I mean, Hamilton with the podium. Obviously, he was entangled with Max. Max probably would have got past, but Hamilton drove solidly and got on the podium, and that car clearly has pace.
I think the pace in comparison to Red Bull is somewhat similar.
I really think so, yeah.
And they're both kind of on the same the same level as the second fastest car.
So it will be interesting, because obviously McLaren clearly do have the quickest car at the moment, there's no doubt about that. But it really is Max bringing the Red Bull up. And Merc, I think, do have the quickest car, the second quickest car. It's just that Max is bringing it up to that par.
Because, we said it before and we'll say it again, Merc have got 2 strong drivers, Red Bull have got 1 strong and 1 potentially weaker driver. But it's just that way that Max is outperforming, to be honest. But we could see a change coming soon.
I really do think so. And I think, obviously, with the rumour mill that Max is potentially going to Mercedes, it's going to be interesting because he's going to be watching the performance change of this Mercedes. He's going to be watching it and going, do you know what, look, they have the personnel, now they get the improvements and they're actually starting to work. Could I want to go there? Because at the moment, who would want to be at Red Bull? I mean, it's a sinking ship.
Yeah, it is, and everyone is leaving.
Literally everyone is leaving. But if we now move on to Ferrari, there's nothing to shout about. It was the third, fourth fastest car, and Charles outperformed Carlos to nearly get on the podium.
And that hasn't been the case for a while. No. I mean, strange to see, but I don't know. I think they are battling with the third and fourth fastest car, but I don't think they're anywhere near that of a Mercedes.
Absolutely not. They're just kind of in their own level at the moment, just trying to get those improvements. Because obviously the Miami improvements didn't work, and they're currently scrambling trying to get something to work. But if we move on to the controversy, McLaren. So obviously we got a 1-2 in qualifying, which was unbelievable, showing the car finally has pace. Oscar got past at the start, and clearly they had an agreement at the start that whoever led into the first corner would then win the race. They then undercut with Lando in the second pit stop, meaning that Lando went ahead, and then for the entire final stint, they were basically guilt-tripping Lando over the radio to change back the position. So kind of what's your opinion on that?
I don't know, because they told Lando, that he's pitting, and they also told Piastri this, to kind of cover off Hamilton.
Absolutely. But
then it ended up, a shame, like he became in P1, right? Yeah, it just ended up that way. Whether or not that was planned or not, I don't know. It's a difficult one, because I mean,
you can see why Lando didn't want to, because he's currently technically in a championship battle.
Exactly.
And you're literally giving that driver the choice of either putting himself first or the team.
But then obviously, like they said on the radio, you do need 2 cars to be able to win a championship.
Absolutely.
So arguably it's not all about you.
And I mean, we saw with Checo and Max in 2021, Checo won Max that championship. You need your teammate next to you. And if Lando is going for this World Championship, he's going to need Oscar. He's going to need Oscar to fend off Max at points. And look, it was a mess. But Oscar did win, and we did get a 1-2 finish. Yeah. So, putting all the guilt tripping on the radio aside, it was a great result. We do have the fastest car, and we are finally getting wins. Yep. So it's very, very good to see.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
No.
So we'll move on to Aston Martin.
I mean, not much to say. I mean, Stroll outperformed Alonso, got a point, but it's not where that team wants to be.
No, it's not. And again, like you said, there's nothing much to say there, is there?
With Alpine again.
Alpine, no pace. I mean, that doesn't change, does it?
No, I mean, they're both at the back. I mean, Ocon managed to pass Zhou on the final lap, but it is crazy to see how well that decision from Piastri to not go to Alpine and go to McLaren was, because he was winning the race and they were 18th and 20th.
It's ridiculous.
It's insane.
And they even said on the stream, you know, he told the world that he was joining Formula One by saying he wasn't going to be a part of that team, and that team were doing like really awfully.
So yeah, I mean, you can't be happy with that team right now.
No.
Williams, I mean, it's okay pace for them. Albon was fighting cars, but he was never able to kind of get the points. It's the kind of the story for all the kind of back markers now, because there was no real retirements at the front, so they were all kind of battling for the P12s, P13s.
Yeah.
But change of story with the Racing Bulls. Yuki got into the points.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, we've said about Yuki before, and that kind of like spare Red Bull seat, you know, will he go to Red Bull as Racing Bulls is associated with Red Bull, so it's kind of like the step up, and we've seen it happen before.
Surely he deserves it at this point now.
Surely,
right? Surely he backs himself against Max, but I just don't feel them going away from Checo. Just whether it's the money issues, because obviously Checo brings a lot of money to the team with Castrol and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But surely they want more performance now.
Surely they want performance, but is that performance offsetting, you know, the money?
True.
They probably are more in need of the money to then get the performance.
Very true. So it's all going to be a balancing act for Christian Horner, but I personally do think that Yuki deserves that promotion.
I think so.
100%.
I think he's definitely shown it again. Like we've said it before so many times. Some weekends he has some absolute flyers.
Absolutely.
You know, he'll just be right up there in comparison to his teammate Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, who did not have a good race to say the least.
No.
Sauber, no pace like usual. That team is not looking good for Audi when they come in.
No.
And Haas, I mean, they tried aggressive strategies. Did they have the pace? Possibly, but the strategies never seem to work.
No, and like if you've not got the good strategy, then the pace doesn't really matter, does it?
Exactly.
Because you've got to be battling the other strategies of the other teams to be able to do them well.
And they were always trying to undercut, and yes, they then got ahead and possibly into the points, running in the points at one point, but then the cars just came off with the overcut, and then that's how their race went.
Yeah.
But that was it. That was the Hungarian Grand Prix. It was one hell of a Grand Prix, full of drama, and I hope you enjoyed. So yeah, let's go on to the next podcast.